I'm a little bit nervous and a little bit excited about today's episode because I have a good friend of mine. Would you say good?
A great friend.
I don't know about great.
You're the reason I'm in LA.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I wouldn't say great.
Okay.
No, I would say great. I'm just fucking with you. I would say great. So I have a great friend who's never been on my podcast, and this is his first time. So it's going to be interesting. We told ourselves that we're just going to talk like no one's listening, which is, always the best kind of conversations. Before I introduce him, I want to say a few things. Okay, so Jeff, usually when I have a guest, I have a videographer, right? I've got multiple mics with headphones. I have lighting. It's a whole production, costs like $450. It's not that you're not important, because today I have nothing. today we're sharing a mic.
You stuck me on this chair that feels like you put together. I mean, this thing's gonna fall apart.
Yes, and the reason why the production value is very low today is because this was very
Dude,
it's going to bother people too. This is very spontaneous, meaning I just texted Jeff this morning and said, "Hey,
30 minutes ago.
Yeah, come over. Let's do the podcast." So I didn't have time to hire professionals. So what's interesting is we're going to be at a kissing distance because we're sharing this mic. Also, it's like 90 degrees. Jeff came here on his Harley, so he's got balls wet. He's uncomfortable. Also,
you gave me shorts though.
I did give him shorts. We also have mosquitoes, so there's a lot happening. But you know what? What else would you expect from a John Kim production?
Not much more.
Yeah. So we're gonna share this microphone. You could literally pick it up and use it as kind of a talking stick. Now, what's great about this is I tend to interrupt people, but if we do it this way, I can't interrupt, right? So whoever's holding the mic is the one talking, and it kind of lets the other person, kind of shuts them up. Let me tell you who Jeff, aka Jeff Head Coach. That's what comes up on my phone still.
You haven't changed it?
No. Was it 3 hours? 3 years later? 3 hours.
3 years?
How long has it been? 5? More than 5. Holy shit.
I moved here in 2015.
9 years. So I tell people Jeff fell from the sky because I met him on the internet. I once had a CrossFit box, or I was a part of it. I realized very fast it's not what I was meant to do in this world. And Jeff was referred, and he was
Andy.
Yes, by a guy named Andy. Andy was on my podcast with Charlie and Nick. Another reason why Jeff's on my podcast is that I feel like I've had all my friends on my podcast except him. So
is that true?
I think most. Well, it's makeup day. He was coming. He wanted to get out of Delaware and he wanted to come to California, and he was looking for a CrossFit box to be a head coach at. And so he lied about his friend time, and we hired him. And the CrossFit box didn't work out for me. But what I love about that was it got him here. And then since then, Jeff has been thriving. He's a private coach to a lot of, I would say, high-end clientele, celebrities. Also, he is an athlete, does Ironmans and all this, lives the lifestyle. You know what? I got to say, one of the things that I admire about you is you don't just tell people how to do fitness, but you live it. Like, since I've known you, you've always done some kind of fitness.
You don't say many nice things about me. To me. You don't compliment me very much. That was nice.
Dude, you're right. Like, if I we were talking yesterday about, I think we were talking yesterday about guy friends and how all my guy friends kind of make fun of me and they don't really compliment anything I do. And
I do both.
You do. You're the only one that's really championed my books and stuff. But I think you're right. I haven't. Have I ever given you any? I've given you compliments.
I mean, occasionally, I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Just not one that I could remember.
Well, I'm giving you one now.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I have a question for you. So, tell me about you in Delaware. One of the things that I actually want to know is what it was like being raised by a single parent. Me being a parent today, oh man,
Ooh.
exponentially, my respect for single parents has gone up now that I'm on the other side of raising a 3.5-year-old.
Are you done with your question?
Yes.
Okay. I was just talking about this a few minutes ago. I was raised by a single mom, and I had no siblings.
Only child, single mom.
Yeah, and I was just talking to a friend about this, and he was like, would you just have one kid? And I was like, definitely. I had the best childhood ever. And he's like, I'm just so close with my sisters, and like I couldn't imagine raising a child that doesn't have that type of relationship with siblings. But I mean, my mom's like a very quote unquote like girly woman, like and all of her friends were women. All of her friends had children that were all daughters. So by the time I was 4, I asked for a Malibu Barbie dream house.
Wait,
because that's what I knew. That's what I wanted. That's like what I was used to.
I can I just say real quick? So the same case for me, except I didn't know. My parents put a strawberry shortcake T-shirt on me when I was young. They just didn't know that what was for girls and boys. But I also had a Malibu Barbie dream house. No joke. Anyway, go on.
So when I asked for that, she was like, oh, I got to put you in sports or get some sort of like male role model in your life. So from 4 on, she put me in soccer, and then it kind of just evolved from there. But yeah, with that being said, I mean, I went to a really small school, and I had very close friends, and I liked my me time in the week. Like during the week, I had, we lived in this like very narrow 3-story, like I was going to say townhome, but little home in Delaware, and she gave me the whole top floor. So
Wow.
I had a video game room.
You were spoiled.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Video game room, and I had my bedroom. So I would go up there doing my homework, and I would just play video games and chill and watch movies, and I loved it. But every weekend, she was really good about letting me sleep out. So I think there may have been 4 weekends from 5th grade on, 6th grade on, where I wasn't at a sleepover. So no siblings, had good friends, was with my buddies in school all day. Then we had sports for 2 or 3 hours. Then we would have ASP, which is an after school program. So I was like with these guys for like 14 hours. So by the time my mom picked me up, I was ready to be alone.
You know what? Do you think that sports, the locker room, athletics is what kept you out of trouble? Because you seem like someone, because your mom's a lovely person. Also, she was probably working. You probably could have done anything you wanted as far as getting into drugs and debauchery in high school, right? Or maybe you did as well. I don't know. But do you think that sports gave you handrails for that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I'll just say your question isn't another 3.5 minutes long. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, I always say I definitely have a super addictive personality, but maybe I'm just like really manic. I don't know what's wrong with me, but like health and fitness and all of that, thank God, always it was priority number 1. So, there were people doing their things and the partying. Now, I definitely partook in all of that. Partaken?
Partaken? I don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
Okay, right. I hope my mom doesn't listen to this.
Your mom's gonna listen to this. I have a lot of mom followers for some reason.
My mom doesn't listen to this. I was just kidding about all that. I actually never did any of that. So, but yeah, and back to my mom. We didn't even have like butter and salt in the house. I mean, she always. I mean, she was a good cook. Where her list of things that she could make was long. I mean, she could make anything, but it had no butter, no salt. It was like fat-free, sugar-free, this, that, whatever. Which I hated as a kid, but now, for me to go and pig out, it's like going to get barbecue or something, which really isn't that bad, or Korean barbecue.
Yeah.
Where were we? What did you even ask me?
I was gonna say, you know who Jason Bateman is?
Of course,
he's
okay. I listen to Smartless all the time.
Yeah, okay. So he's known for like he'll ask the celebrity guest like, 14 questions, and then they're like,
That's exactly what I thought of. And they were like, and Will Arnett's like, get to the point.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we don't
yeah.
even know what you're talking
Yeah.
about anymore.
we were talking about you being raised by a single mom, and
That was the question before.
well, let me ask you this: so, what was the impact of you being raised by a single mom and not having any male role models, or were your colleagues? Because
Okay, I'm good.
oh, okay.
Okay.
What was the impact of that?
Okay,
You had no dad. What was the impact of that?
Oh God. I think. So let's go back to the sports thing. So my mom put me in sports. Every picture of me playing soccer or basketball, whatever, is like, it'll be like the yearbook picture or the team picture at the end, and it's all these kids and then the coach, and I'm like,
Right, right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
So I like clung on to, would cling on to these men. There's
Older
another
men.
way. Yeah,
Like
like
teachers,
not
coaches.
in a creepy way,
No, I
but
know.
like,
No, right.
yeah, like you, it's funny, like I've been in therapy forever, and I was listening to this Dax Shepard podcast.
Yes.
And he was
I was on it, armchair expert. Go on.
I don't think anyone listened to that one. He was there with Matt Damon. Matt Damon like has this super manly relationship with his dad and was like all into sports, and he only idolized and wanted to emulate one man. And Dax was like, yeah, that's so interesting because I grew up without a dad. And he's like, quote unquote manly guy or whatever that even means these days. But he was like, every guy in my life, it could be like a teacher or a coach or somebody I walk by on the street. He's like, oh man, that's really cool. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start walking like that. Or
Right.
I'm going to wear my watch on my right hand now. And I do that big time where I find somebody. I don't know if I've ever done it with you. Like I would never wear like these pearl bracelets or anything, but yeah, you find these things and you latch onto them. So it's like, it's little qualities of, I don't know, 150 coaches and, colleagues or friends or people in college, whatever, athletes that I've sort of latched onto at one point or another. And I've gathered all these different traits from all of them. Now, from my mom's side of the thing, she'd be chatting with and this is going way back. She'd be chatting with all her friends, all of her girlfriends, who I said all had daughters.
Right.
And, they'd be all talking and gossiping about, who's dating who and whatever. And, typically, you see these little boys in the corner with like their arms full and they're like, can we go? And I would be under the table like, oh, what did he say?
Right.
Did you go back on a date with him? Did it go well? What did you wear? So I have that side of me that is very much like my mother as well. So it's about my personality is a culmination of like 150 different men and my mother. Well, and and Us Weekly.
Yeah, what's interesting is so as far as nurture goes, because you were raised by a single mom, I think you actually relate to women sometimes more so than men. And then it's because of your athletics in the locker room and not having a father growing up, there's also a emulation or maybe a gravitation that you're not aware of, where you're drawn to men in a way, kind of like a father figure, uncle kind of thing. I don't know if it's now. How old are you now?
36.
36. So I don't know if it's faded now. But this is actually very normal and usually the case for any guy who was raised by a mom, single mom. And so there's this interesting, like, you are quote unquote very masculine as far as like muscles.
You think so?
I mean, depending on the definition, but yeah, you have that quality, but then you also have a very, I think, a sensitive side that comes from being raised by a single mom.
Yeah. And I want to say this. You said how I gravitate towards women probably more than men. I definitely have always had
relate to, maybe.
Yeah, relate to. But I had this interesting relationship with guys. And this is also another interesting fact where a lot of my friends growing up, and I went to this school where everyone's parents were like together, and one was a lawyer and the other was a doctor. And I remember we were sitting after this basketball game, and everyone kind of like branched out and did their own thing. And me and my 6 friends all went out, and we were, like we went to the macaroni grill and we got food. And my mom, whenever my mom has to announce something, she goes like this. She leans forward and she goes, "You know what?" And then she went on her little spiel. She was like, "You know what? Isn't it interesting how in your entire grade, all the boys that are in your school, you guys all gravitated towards one another, and look around at this table. It's all boys with single moms. We're the only ones. We all kind of and we kind of, I feel like there's like a way we communicate differently than other guys that probably grew up with a father." Yeah. And even it's still even true to this day. A lot of my like really good friends were raised by their mom, or like their dad was present, but not for very long of their life, or he was in and out of their life. But I think I do think the guys that are in my life who, had that fairy tale childhood, grew up with a mom and dad and the white picket fence and all that.
Dad teaching them how to play baseball, go camping, all that stuff.
And sort of the cliche, manly, like I don't cry, I don't talk about feelings. I'll ask all those questions.
Yeah.
And I like go there with them. And those guys who don't talk about anything, you ask them those questions and they won't shut up.
Well,
it's been a trap door for years, and they just unleash on you.
So people like you, and also people like Dak Shepard, who are quote unquote manly men, but also, sensitive. You guys are Trojan horses because men can relate to you, or you're very competitive with them. So you have that bond. And then when you start talking about things that, quote unquote, men don't usually talk about in locker rooms, because they have that bond with you, they'll open up. Right now, if you didn't have the manliness, if you didn't have whatever, the motorcycle or the muscles, and I know I'm stereotyping.
These are compliments. I mean, these are more compliments I've ever gotten.
I'm going to give them to you all today, and then probably never ever again. Okay. Then if you didn't have that, they wouldn't open up to you, I think. Does that make sense? So in a way, you kind of create a bridge. And that's what I mean by
absolutely. And it was it's always been like that. So that's kind of where I always kind of go back to when I get asked questions like that. Like sports were, I mean, look, I was never the best athlete in the world, but I was good enough to, all my friends were very good at sports. So I always kind of consider myself like a little lower on the scale or tier of them. What if I have to burp? Do I have to?
No, I burp all the time on my podcast.
In the mic?
I try not to, maybe away from the mic, but
it went away. The burp really killed
soda water.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the soda water. Waterloo. Are we not allowed to talk about brands?
Well, I mean,
these guys would never sponsor you. This is like a big, because this is a big company.
Oh, that's hurtful.
You've got me on a rickety chair. This I have a lot of big sponsors on my podcast.
Polar.
It's like a polar bear with that drawn like a.
Where do you think I got these? Free from my sponsors? No,
I thought they just dropped this off at your door. Anyway, so the whole sports thing.
No, I need to tighten the vice. Okay, go ahead. You finish, and then I need to start tightening the vice. I'm going to make you a little bit uncomfortable because I'm going somewhere with all of this. Where I was going was...
Yeah, you kind of tricked me. I didn't know we were going to be talking about all this stuff.
How does all of this impact your relationships? So how does growing up without a male figure, growing up with a single mom, how do you think all of that contributes to relationships as you became an adult? So 20s, 30s, and we don't have to get into specifics or names, but just broad strokes.
Okay, I can answer this. My mom and I, she really spoiled me big time.
I can see that.
Not financially, emotionally. We went on one trip when I think I was 5 or 6 to Orlando because I loved alligators, and she took me to this zoo that had you were an albino alligator.
Can I just start?
You don't want to hear about that?
No, I'm imagining if it was just me and Logan and against the world. I mean, I would give her my life. I mean, I you know what I'm saying? Like if I was a single parent and all I had was a daughter, we would be inseparable. I would give her everything. And that's probably kind of what it was like for you.
And now how do you think the boys that she's going to be dating would would compare to you after you're super dad her entire life.
Right.
So that's the same thing. So emotionally, she really spoiled me. I mean, she was always there for me. If I murdered somebody in front of her, she'd be like, Jeffrey didn't do it.
Right.
He didn't do it. Not my Jeffrey.
Yep.
So that became my definition of love. And not that I was ever in and out of prison or rehab, but if I was, my mother would be putting money on my commissary. She'd be visiting me every day in rehab, bringing me turkey sandwiches. I could do no wrong. Yeah. You know, and I always expected that from my spouse or from my girlfriend or whatever. And I remember talking to a therapist, and she was like, well, imagine the other way around. Imagine if your girlfriend was in and out of prison and doing drugs all the time. I don't know why I'm going so dark with these metaphors here, but I was like, oh God, no, I would never be with them. They need to get help. And she was like, yeah, I don't know why you have this expectation that these people are going to be with you no matter what. I mean, people, they come and go, and as you say, like they ebb and flow, and it's, you know, can you grow together? But I always had this idea of how I should be treated. And I mean, it's just my idea of love, and I've been working on it, but my idea of love is so unrealistic.
Oh, well, because your mom has that bar so high,
and like what she would do for me, and she's always there for me and drops everything for me, and it's just, it really affects my relationships.
That's really interesting. So in relationships, the expectation you put on someone to love you is compared to that, which I don't think is fair or also realistic, right?
No. And no one can anticipate somebody's needs better than my mother. Nobody. And I've become really good at that. It's like, okay, this person worked a really long day. They like this type of food. It's really hot out. I'm going to set the AC to this and like get all these little things set up and make sure all the dogs are fed. And I'll bring the duvet cover on the couch to make it set up like a bed so they can just lounge out there. Like maybe go a little over the top sometimes.
But that's the scene you're used to walking into.
Yes, so that's what I'm used to.
As an adult, that you're not going to probably get that. Maybe a little bit of that, but not to that degree.
Well, maybe if I would communicate to them that I need that, but I don't. That's the other problem. My mom did everything for me. I never had to ask her for a thing. So I do all these things. I love the surprise element of everything.
Right.
So I like to do these things, and they walk in, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You're amazing. Make out with me. And when I come home and I've worked for 14 hours and, you know, the dogs haven't been fed or there's no dinner, I'm like, oh, what a bitch.
Yeah. So then you fall off that cliff, the expectation cliff.
Yeah. But I never communicate what I need. I'm always like, hey, I'm on my way home.
Expecting.
It's not like, hey, can we do this for dinner? Or I'm going to get home and shower, and then, you know, would you mind cooking dinner and feeding the dogs? I just come in and expect all these things. And then when they're not done, I get really resentful.
Yeah. Hey, first I want to say thank you for being so honest and transparent. You know, because what we're doing right now is we're using your story to help other people. So that's really interesting. So the thing that happens in childhood and your relationship, I mean, we're talking about attachments, right? So your relationship with parent or parents and how that forms expectations or the tracks when you grow up and then you experience love. And so, you know, a lot of codependency here, a lot of expectations, a lot of being pampered, and then the bar being so high that no woman will probably meet those expectations. And then, of course, you know, reacting from that. Hey, by the way, I also burp constantly when I'm drinking soda water. So,
but you're doing it, and then you're like talking into the microphone. It's going up my nose.
I'm drinking the fake Coke. That's why I don't drink soda water.
But you should turn and burp. I'm being respectful.
I think being aware. So you're aware of this stuff, right? So now as a 36-year-old, because I think, you know, 35 is your age is when I did my first squat of my life. Your age is when I first.
I thought you worked out in college.
No, I skated and did a lot of bench pressing, but I was a bench warmer. So unlike you, I was not an athlete. I was on the football team, but I was a kid with the whitest uniform. So I was a total bench warmer. And although I was athletic, I wasn't an athlete. So when I found CrossFit, I had this huge false belief. And so when I went up against someone like you, I would sabotage, I would stutter, I would get scared. And then once I realized I could do some things like burpees or, things, and I started to tie quote unquote athletes, it shifted something in me. And this is why Jeff and I worked out the other day and we're very competitive. And this is
How'd that go?
Jeff won, but he cheated.
By what? Finishing 2.5 minutes before you?
No, Jeff didn't cheat, but I did.
I actually did
extra reps. I did extra reps.
I actually didn't cheat. You just did an additional round that you didn't need to do.
I have this card in my back pocket that I'm going to pull out if the conversation goes sideways, and it's titled "Cum Clarity," and I don't want to pull it out yet. So let's keep going with this because it's really fascinating. So at now 36, and I got to say, you've had a lot of relationships. What's next for you? Because look, 36. Look, I got a divorce at 35. Where you're at right now, maybe 1 year sooner is when I was broke, had nothing, found CrossFit, bought my first motorcycle. Like my entire rebirth started at you now. And I don't know, maybe there's a part of you that feels like you're old, but you're like, dude, your age is when I started. And I was wearing, khakis, working in nonprofit and doing my first squat at 36.
Right. Can I be honest with you?
I hope you're honest.
This isn't this might come off mean to you.
Oh, I'm used to it, Jeff.
No, but
I'm a late bloomer. But let me. You're going to say, John, I'm not you. And,
no.
I'm a late bloomer. I am a late bloomer.
No, it's different. But you being a late bloomer. So for me, when I met you, I think you were 60. How old are you?
Well, right, I'm 72 now in Korean years. Because in Korea, you're 1 year older.
Okay, so you were in your younger 40s, and you're right. You were like driving the motorcycle and talking into phones all day.
I had a parrot, a cockatoo.
You had a parrot, and I was like,
named Banksy.
I was like, man, I hope this is not where I'm at when I'm 40. That's
not true. That's not true. This bullshit.
I think a little scary. Listen, I wanted to emulate you when I was like 28, 29, but you're not letting me finish. So that scared me. And then because I was always like, God, when I'm 41, my kid's going to be 5 years old. And I'm going to be coaching them in soccer practice, whatever. Yeah. And when I hit 30, that fear got worse. No, and it's not just about you. Like, I really don't want it. That it's like your face wasn't like imprinted.
Yeah. You're not saying that's the poster of I don't want to be that guy.
It wasn't you. It was
also Los Angeles and Delaware, two very different places.
Two very different places, and it really wasn't until a year and a half ago, maybe even a year ago, less than a year ago, where this whole self-induced pressure of me needing to get married and wanting to have kids. I want to do all that stuff. And instead of being afraid of ending up like you, I was looking forward to ending up like you.
Wait, but which version of me? When I was in my 40s, or
the whole thing,
me as a 50-year-old?
The whole thing.
Because I do have a family now. I do have
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But you took your time.
Oh, yeah.
And you did it. You kind of, I wouldn't say on your own terms. I don't want Vanessa to come out here and beat my ass. But you took your time. And for whatever reason, something in my body, this whole cliche, age is just a number, just like released. And I was saying, I'm happy. I'm doing well. I've got great friends. I don't know if you said that we're not great friends, but
good. I said we're good friends.
I've got some good friends.
I think you saying great is putting an expectation on me, except good. Good is good.
Okay. Anyway, so I came to this realization. I was like, life's good. I don't know why I'm putting all this pressure on myself to do all these things that I don't need to do right now. And you said Delaware and LA are very different.
Yeah.
If you're 40 and living in Delaware, and you have never been married and you have no kids, something's wrong with you. You had a dark past and something mentally is unstable with you. Out here, it's the norm.
Yeah, standard.
I mean, these, you as a 50-year-old, you're beating everybody in class. That's the only compliment I'll give you.
Not everyone, but
most. Oh yeah, that's true. You're like, okay, maybe I take all that back. But
he's talking about fitness class, not math.
Yeah, definitely not math. But you know what I'm saying? It's like that's 14 years away from me. And you're in these classes and doing what everybody else is doing plus more. It's like, I don't know what this looming doom I have over my head is all about. And I got rid of it. And so you're asking me what I'm going to do now. It's just not worry about that. I mean, just experiencing life and going through life, not having that on your brain is really nice.
No, you're actually talking about something that's
Can I open
huge.
this?
Yeah, of course.
The unsponsored one.
We're not sponsored by Polar. All natural seltzer. You're
not someone who would sponsor you.
You're talking about, that's fucked up. You're talking about something. You're talking about the ticking clock. You're talking about old blueprints. This is a generalization, but a lot of women struggle with this because they're in their 30s and they don't have children, or they don't have a family, or they have, they don't have a picket fence. But man, it must be. So has this been a recent thing, or in the last couple of years you have been able to
let it go?
Let it go, smash the clock.
Yeah. I mean, like I said a year and a half, a year ago. I mean, it's been recent, but I know I'm friends with these women who have these. I kind of wanted to say this, but I don't know what's the clock, biological clock.
Yes. Internal biological. Yes.
Right. Are you sure?
Positive.
Okay. God, imagine if I had that. Imagine if I was a woman and I feel the way how I do as a man. I mean, that would.
Yeah.
I would like crawl into a hole and be freaking out all the time.
Yeah. How were you able to, let me ask you this, because what you're talking about, many can relate to and still struggle with. How are you able to not put that pressure on yourself anymore? What got you there? Is it Los Angeles? Is it just moving here and seeing that other people are older and having kids later, and not, some aren't even getting married?
I don't know. I think just being around older dudes that either, I mean, I've got friends and clients that are like,
mid-50s?
50 with a 2-year-old, or 53 with a 2-year-old. And it's totally fine and totally normal. And they're super happy. They're super healthy. They're super fit. They're doing these half Ironmans with me. And I'm like, that's like 2 decades away from where I am. What am I freaking out so bad about right now? I've got all the time in the world. Robert De Niro just had a kid at 80.
Well, I don't know about. I mean, yes.
You don't think I should do that?
No, I don't. I think there's
maybe not my first.
There may be an irresponsibility to that too, which is I don't know him, so I don't know. But
He's gonna find out you said that.
I know. Fuck. So him and Al Pacino both.
Can you cuss on this?
Have you seen Pump Up the Volume? Christian Slater movie from the 80s. He does this little.
I wasn't alive then.
Yeah, I don't think you were alive then. He has a little. He does a little satellite radio show from his bedroom, and I always trying to channel the spirit of that, meaning that this is from my garage, but yes, we're the 2 guys with the bras on our head trying to make magic, right? The weird science. We could do whatever we want. Say whatever we want. We don't want to get canceled, but
I was really nervous about that coming over here. No one knows who I am. I don't have Instagram. You can follow me at my name on Facebook. I check it about once every 3 years.
But that's kind of the point, is that you're not a nobody, but the point is,
I mean, in the social, in your internet world.
No, but I know, but then you're also a more accurate example of someone who's 36, male, and going through life and struggles, and now new definitions. So let me ask you this: at 36, what's your new definition of a man? What is your definition of a man these days? Is it different? Also, what did you eat for breakfast? What's your favorite color? When did you shave last?
I think green and bacon, potatoes, and eggs. I've been eating that since like 8th grade.
What's your definition of a man?
Oh, dude, come on. Do you ever prep people before you bring them on here?
No, man.
I mean, at least give them the time. Like, hey, I'm going to ask you this, and this. I have this big ride over here while I'm sweating my balls off. If I could at least thought about it.
I think the best conversations happen in the here and now. So
yeah, which would be fine if I knew this was going to be edited. But now you get this live stuff. People are saying things, and now I feel awkward, like just pausing. They're going to be like, they're going to leave.
No. I think that's
we've got you got 6 people on here. It's a big audience. I thought
put a couple more zeros after that.
I thought you would do better than that. Oh, look, we got 27. Now they feel bad for you. My definition of a man. I don't know, man. My definition of a man not growing up with a dad was like the, Frank Lambert, Carl Winslow, like
Carl Winslow.
Carl Winslow, 90s Family Matters, Step by Step, all these guys.
Okay. All right.
So that's what I thought a dad was like.
Oh, right.
Don't cry, be tough, learn how to fix stuff.
Yeah.
And my definition of a man now, I mean, let me just say this. As a friend, and my expectations from a friend are loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
I want you, for the most part, to be honest with me. If you tell me a white lie and I find out, I don't care. If you lie to me about something big, that really bothers me.
Why do you not care about white lies? But
because
why
I tell them all the
isn't
time.
a lie?
No, not in my books.
Yeah.
A lie is not a lie.
Okay.
A big lie is a big lie. If you're loyal and you're honest and you're there for people, and this is men and women. I don't know what the difference is, to be honest, but just being a good person. I mean, you see all these things and, all of these issues amongst friends and amongst family and in the world. And I think if people were just better at being decent, respectful human beings, the world would be a lot better.
Yeah, I think you get that from, probably how your mom raised you, but also I actually think that you got that from Delaware. Those qualities like loyalty, because I grew up in LA, it's all I know. Those aren't things that we put a lot of weight on. But I think in smaller towns, especially East Coast, like tell it how it is, loyalty, like that kind of.
Take a New Yorker,
Don't
right?
touch me. That's right. LA and Delaware.
So take a New Yorker, right? People had their thing about New Yorkers. A New Yorker is not going to be your best friend right away. But God, if you get in with one of those dudes or these girls, you're in for life. And they got you for life.
LA, people are your best friend right away.
Yeah,
generally,
and I don't believe it.
Yeah,
I don't. You're too nice and too buddy, or you'll crack these jokes. I'm like, oh man, we're not there yet. That kind of offended me. Where someone like you could say whatever you want. Let me tell you something. Did we have that trust conversation yesterday? Oh yeah. Then you said I'm at 30%. That's a dickhead thing to say. Okay.
Let's talk about trust.
In Delaware, school I went to, every class you start with an A, 100%. Mm-hmm. And then as my D minuses started rolling in, that 100% would quickly drop. But for me, that's how trust works. If I meet you, I trust you 100%. I could be skeptical or apprehensive about something, but if I'm like, okay, this guy's cool, like I'm going to hang out with him, or this, I met this girl in class and she wants to do a workout tomorrow. Like, yeah, this is cool. Like I'm going to bond with this person. You start at 100%. That's 100%.
So you give people 100 right away.
Sorry, 100%.
Yeah.
However,
and then they lower.
Yeah, little white lies, they don't really do anything. Like they don't really affect that 100%. Like I might call them out. You might deduct 2 or 3 points. If you lie to me, like you disappoint me, lack of communication, not being loyal, not advocating for me. I hear you're saying
shit
some
about you.
Foul shit behind my back. You go down. Let's say you go down to a 0 and you build your way back up. You'll never get past a 30. I'm always for the rest of my life going to keep you at arm's distance. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now a New Yorker,
it's like an iPhone after about a year, how the battery you just can't charge it enough.
Yeah.
It's just unchargeable.
Yeah. Or like my motorcycle, the thing's about to explode, by the way. Anyway, New Yorkers, I feel you start at 0. A lot of people I know from the East Coast, especially from New York, are people that are just hard to bond with. You start at 0 and you have to earn their trust. And you might work your way all the way up. And if something like that happens, you get cut, but you can earn your trust back with them, which I find interesting. With me, not so much, but I'll trust everybody right from the get-go. That's why I leave my cars unlocked, my house is unlocked. You could rob me right now.
I like this. I like hearing this side of you. You're tapping into a little bit of McConaughey.
Ooh, wow, that's the greatest compliment you could have given me.
See, I'm going to give you all of them today and then never again. So
now we're down to 25. I wish more people would have heard that.
Story. My podcast has a much bigger reach than my Instagram.
It doesn't look like it.
Well, it does monthly. Your mom's going to hear this.
No.
Yes.
No.
I will send her the link.
No, don't. That's messed up. I'll hang up right now and
I think it's interesting.
I'll throw this laptop on the street.
So if my daughter did a podcast, was talking about me and upbringing and stuff, and it was more of me understanding my daughter better at 36, I would love to hear that episode. So anyway, let's end with Cum Clarity. So
You can't.
so,
Let
it's
me just say something.
No one's ever
Why
talked
can't I?
about
Can I
that.
say? Can I say my phrase?
It's Jeff's phrase.
No. What my phrase is? Post nut clarity. I don't want there's nothing about me on the internet. They're going to type in, my mom's going to type in Jeff Scarborough and the word cum is going to be right after it.
So Cum Clarity has a ring to it.
Post nut clarity.
Nut clarity sounds like cereal. All right.
Let's just not say the word anymore.
Okay, let's not say the word. But the interesting phenomenon of and you know, we're men, so we're just talking about our experience. After you have an orgasm, the clarity in that,
how you feel about the person,
yes, comes so, I mean, it's literally like a black light, and over within seconds right after you finish. And I wonder if women also feel the same way. But after you finish, the clarity is rack focused, where you go from maybe distorted because of passion and hormones and being turned on, to you either want the person to snuggle with, or you want them out of your.
You want to get up and run away as fast as possible.
And I've always felt that, but no one's ever really talked about it. And I think, and maybe for
people
women,
talk about it, but they don't break it down.
They don't break it down.
Right.
Yeah. And I think for women, it's maybe like if you have when you wake up with the person next morning and it kind of comes in and settles, I'm not really feeling.
Yeah.
But with men, it's instant.
It's like, oh God. And not even, I shouldn't have done that. It's just, this is, okay. Let me say all this. And I really wish I got here. I was really hoping Vanessa was going to be inside so that I could ask her if women go through this for whatever reason. I have a lot of girlfriends, friends that are girls, and I've never brought this up, but I am curious if they do this. But me, for example, I'm not speaking for anybody. There's been so many times, I shouldn't say so many times. Please don't send this to my mother. There's been times where I've been talking to somebody and I've been into it, and things start to get a little more intimate or physical, whatever, and on paper I'm like, this actually is going really well, like maybe I could start dating this person, or it could lead to boyfriend girlfriend stuff. And then sometimes you sleep with them and it could be amazing sex, but then right afterwards this light bulb goes off, and I'm like, I start to get immense guilt. I feel horrible and shame and like, oh my God, did I just lead this person on this whole time? And I've had those comments reciprocated to me that was like, oh, so, I can see the look on your face now that you got what you want. I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, I want to like this person so bad. Yeah. I hate that I have this feeling right now.
Does it also go the other way, where after you come, you want to be with this person? So meaning, you want, like, you feel wanting to never? That's never happened? So every time after?
Here's the two things that happen to me. I can be talking with someone. So it all starts the same. You're talking with someone, you're texting, you go on dates, whatever. And the people I have dated, like call them girlfriends. I have been at a point with them where our first experience sexually could be the worst sex in the world. It's not going to bother me. I know for a fact, 1000% I'm going to like them afterwards. And
based on what?
I just know it. Okay. I feel it.
Okay.
And there have been a few times where I'm not 100% sure, but I feel confident about it. And then the deed happens. And then afterwards I'm like, I'm interested in continuing this and seeing how she feels, and hopefully it's reciprocated, and exploring, see where it goes from there. But it's just those times where you're like, I'm not sure. I kind of feel good about it. And then it happens. And then you're like, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's like, I get, that term of like being flooded if you're in an argument with someone. Yeah. I almost get so flooded with guilt and shame that my personality shuts off. And a lot of times they'll check in on me in the morning or whatever, or I will, and then they'll respond, and I just have nothing to say. I just feel horrible because I want to just be upfront and tell them, but then that guilt sets in of like, oh, you're just going to be that guy that led them on and said all these things, and then you slept with them, and then you're over it.
So we're talking about, dating and possibly one night stands and whatever. But what about when you're in a relationship and you are obviously being sexually intimate? When you have an orgasm when you're in a relationship and you love the person, is the cum clarity different?
Yeah, because that base of feelings is there. There's no foundation to texting and going on a few dates with someone.
Yeah.
You could be in a relationship and there could be a week or a month or a few months where you have horrible sex and like there's that connection's not there, that ebb and flow you were talking about, but you can be open and communicate with them like, hey, I'm feeling this. Oh, I'm feeling the same way. How can we change it? And you have this open dialogue where with someone like that, I mean, you're like sitting at dinner and you're like, am I eating right? I mean, you don't feel comfortable having those types of conversations with someone new. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think the point / tip is notice the man's behavior after he finishes, because it's very telling. That's kind of the point. I mean, when I love someone, after I finish, I want to snuggle them. I want to go eat pancakes with them. I want to spend more time with them. If I don't love someone, then I kind of want them out of the room.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Where this shame or this guilt comes from?
It comes from you thinking that because you had sex with someone, now you need to give them more. You need to give them a promise.
Yeah, a bit, but I don't want to stereotype men as like sex is sex, blah blah blah. But and this isn't for every woman, but I believe that when a woman has sex with a man, she is on the receiving end. She has there's like a open vulnerability that she has to give you. We don't have to.
Right.
I don't want to go into details, but
like
it's like you're on the receiving end. There's like a mental, literally receiving, spiritual, physical thing that you have to receive. Like you have to take that.
Yes.
But with us, I don't know if we like don't think that far, but it's just different. If you see a nail being hammered into a piece of wood, you're never like the wood is like, oh, the wood really gave it to that nail.
See what I'm saying? Yeah, I was talking to a therapist once years ago, like 15, 20 years ago or longer. And I remember she said, when you are having sex with a woman, you are literally penetrate inside them, John. And I don't think you'll understand as a man all the complex, what that feels like, the meaning of that. It's just a different experience than men where we are. You're right. We're not.
It's even hard to say.
It's hard. Well, because it's hard to articulate. Like I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah. But yes, we're in a way we're not receiving.
Whatever it is, you all know what we're talking about, and we know what we're talking about. It's weird to say and kind of even communicate. But so my guilt comes from that. I mean, I feel like they had to open themselves up to me, and I took something. That's it. And I feel guilty. And there are times where I'm like, I really wish I liked this person, or I didn't feel this way.
But I gotta say, there are, especially in these days, women who can take something from men and feel pleasure, and like it's the pendulum is swinging the other way, which is great. Where women are less performative or doing it for them, but more because they actually enjoy it, and I think
and maybe we even kind of labeled it in the way where like it's not, it's like the man is making the decision. Like there's always examples going the other way where like a female dominates a male and vice versa. Like it's just for my experience and the way that it's made me feel.
Yeah, and I don't even know if the words dominate, but I know what you're saying. But a lot of it has to do with energy. But I see what you're saying is the guilt that you have possibly taken something from this. And I think that guilt comes from that framework, and I think that we got to stop looking at it that way, because there's something about that framework that is kind of patriarchal, in that your experience, instead of it being an experience where it's collective and the shared experience, this idea that you are taking something from a woman or that she is receiving you, even though literally that may be the case.
I feel like we've been saying the same thing for 6 minutes.
No, but I think that framework is old and needs a new framework. I think it needs to be seen through a new lens.
I guess,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah.
is sure, but it's
Because
but
if you're
on their end and my end, I'm
Yeah.
like you're saying that and almost telling me to not feel like that after that feeling comes, but it's just hard.
Yes, I think it's baked in. I think a lot of it is residue from.
Can I say one more thing about that?
Yes.
Back to your first question about how growing up with a woman or a single mom has sort of like manifested itself into my character and everything these days. And sitting under the table and listening to all their gossip and like, oh, what did you wear? What did he say? How was the kiss? Blah, blah, blah. That's how I talk. That's how I communicate a lot with my friends. And
Wanting to know details.
And
curious, right?
My friend's like, oh, I met this girl, I banged her last night. I'm like, whoa,
hold on.
Where did you meet her? What was she wearing? What was she wearing? Yeah. Where did you guys go?
But to me, that's the feminine energy in you that is actually amazing. I think it's great. We all have masculine and feminine energy, and that curiosity, that softness is coming from a feminine space. It's not gendered.
Yeah.
But that energy is from, I think, growing up with a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love when people call and they're like, oh, I got to tell you about this. And I love that because I love to listen and like hear people gush about that. And this now coming full circle, when I talk to anybody, I mean, this can be the barista at Starbucks. And I'll have this like conversation with them and, ooh, who are you dating? And blah, blah, blah. And so when I text these, or let's say I'm texting someone new, for me,
we're talking about Cum Clarity on my podcast.
No, stop saying cum. My mom's going to listen. Post not clarity.
Yes.
I wish you could chime in on this real quick.
Yeah. You want to chime in on this a little bit?
Yeah. I really do have a question. Okay. Real quick. This is going to be 30 seconds. Vanessa's here. Guys are meeting with a girl. They go on a date, whatever. It goes really well. How are you, by the way? I haven't seen you in a while. You're going on a date, goes well. Mm-hmm. You go back, you're like, I'm really into this date and things are going well. And you start kissing and getting touchy-feely and then you have sex. And then in your head, you're like, I want to get out of here. You immediately have that post-nut clarity. And maybe not even the first time, but like, let's say you've been talking to them for...
What's the clarity?
Clarity of,
I don't actually like
the way that she's asking me is making me feel bad. Yeah, that I don't like this person. And let's say it's someone that I...
Wait a second. Pause for a second. So the clarity...
Wait, hold on. Let me finish.
Okay, go.
Let me finish the whole thing. Let's actually take a better example of like, I've gone on 4 or 5 dates with this girl.
Okay.
We've been talking, having great talk.
Yep.
I'm attracted to her. We have this mental, spiritual connection, whatever.
Yep.
And then we sleep together and I'm like, all my feelings go away immediately. Yes. The second after we have sex.
Kind of assumed that they slept together. He came.
Yeah.
Thank you for that though, John.
And then it goes away and then I get rushed with like this feeling of guilt and shame, whatever. But all my friends and I have talked about this and this happens with all of them, but I've never talked to a woman about if they go through that same thing. Oh God, I don't think they do.
I kind of feel, I don't know. I guess there's a few things coming up. One, I feel like I've never had a moment of clarity after orgasm because I feel like I know going into it whether I want this person in my bed long term or not. Like I either go in with a clarity of like I'm just going into this to get laid, or I'm going into this with clarity of like I like this person and so now I'm going to sleep with them.
And if you've been on a couple dates and you guys haven't slept together yet. And then you do, knowing that after that, maybe another time or a couple more times, whatever, you've probably already communicated to them that it's either going to be once or a couple times and you don't see that this relationship going long term.
I mean, ideally I've communicated it to them, but that probably hasn't happened every time. I mean, but also I don't know that I would... I'm trying to think of like examples.
Her brother's 20 feet away, by the way.
I know.
That's why I didn't say, well, she didn't start having orgasms until she met me.
Talk about my orgasms and sleeping with men. Let's make him really uncomfortable. I'm trying to think of examples of when I've brought somebody home and I've known that it was just sex where they haven't also been on the same page. Like, I don't know that I've had an experience, and I have to think about it. I don't know if I've had an experience where I'm going to use the word, like, manipulated another person, to come home and sleep with me when I didn't already know and we weren't kind of already energetically on the same page.
Okay, wait. I'm not saying I know. I think in my head, there's been so many times where I'm talking with someone, I'm like, this is going really well. I'm like, I'm into her and I have this like mental and spiritual connection with her. And we're just like on the same page. We have a good rapport, blah, blah, blah. And we go. And then one night we start hooking up and then boom, and I'm over it.
Meredith, we're talking about cum clarity. We now have a live audience.
Cum, dude.
Poor John.
After you finish, the clarity that comes to you about the other person. Yeah.
He's asking like if, because so many men.
There's no manipulation. I'm not manipulating.
I don't think it's a conscious thing. I still think our unconscious can be manipulative. It doesn't mean that you're doing it manipulative. Like, it doesn't mean that consciously you're doing it with ill intentions.
But can I do it? Can it like
codependency is manipulative, but it's not ill intentioned. Do you know what I mean?
Can it get to the point where it's like, oh, all these things are going well. We've got this one thing to kind of our last little battle here.
Is that thing not good? Are you having bad sex? Like, is the connection?
No, sometimes it's happened. I've had great sex.
Okay.
And the connection's been there, and then we have great sex, and then it just ends. I don't know why.
Here's the point. The phenomenon is, and this is just because I'm a man, and a lot of men can relate to this. After they
You're a what?
A man.
You said amena.
Amena. I was like, a what?
An amenape.
I'm a man because I'm 50 now, so I'm a man and or something else.
Sea anemone.
After men ejaculate, there is a strange thing that happens almost instantly, and it's very powerful, where they are either wanting to cuddle and nurture and be with this person, or they kind of want them out of their room. There's a shift in energy. I don't know if it happens for women, but it's a biological thing.
Well, I don't think you can use words like that without having research to back it up. Like, it's a biological
thing.
For me,
you're a researcher.
For me, it's a biological thing, but almost every guy I've talked to, and that's where this term came from, is when we were talking about it at lunch the other day, the clarity, the rack focus that happens after you ejaculate. Okay,
so I'm not going to be able to articulate this completely without like kind of taking it away and thinking about it more. But what's coming up for me, and like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to connect all the dots. I'll kind of like close the circle, but I'm going to just say what's coming up. Because in our society, men have been conditioned to not feel. And the only way that you have been conditioned is culturally acceptable to be connected to your emotional and spiritual self is through anger or through fucking, right? Those are the only two ways that the patriarchal society has said you will not get shamed or shunned for feeling something in these two realms, right? So to me, it feels something like there is a siphoning, and again, I'm not saying this is conscious, a siphoning off of this woman's sexual, emotional, spiritual energy so that you can feel something for once as a man who's been taught you can't.
I'm never dating again.
And then what happens is you have this clarity after the fact, and there is guilt and shame. I mean, you mentioned it. It feels like it has something to do with that. And like I said, I can't close the loop because I'd have to really sit with what the end result of the clarity is bringing you, but it feels a little bit like that. And that's why like that word manipulate even came up for me.
Well, we're asking,
again, it's not conscious.
Well,
right?
I agree with you. There's many layers there, but there is I believe that there's a biological element. And so we just want to know, is there one for women?
I would say you would have to look it up in order to say it's biological or not.
But asking a guy this, if you brought this up within 2 seconds, like, oh yeah, totally know what you're talking about.
No, I get that, but that's it's biological. That means it could be social. That still means it could be conditioned, because every man you're talking to lives in the society that we live in.
Yeah.
So just because it happens to all of you doesn't mean it's a
biological
thing.
Biological, social, any of that. Just the fact that
it's a shared experience.
Is a shared experience,
sure.
And you It seems like you don't have that conversation.
So there's another woman that's sitting behind the camera for those who can't see. So what I said before you walked up was, I don't think that I've had a moment of clarity after orgasm where I have suddenly been like, I want this person on my bed or I don't. I think I have known going into the sex that either this is just sex and afterwards we're done, or this is more than just sex. I want to like see where this goes because I have some kind of emotional connection with this person. I don't think I've ever had a moment of clarity where like the actual orgasm is the thing that tells me yes or no, unless the sex was really bad, the man wasn't connected to me, they weren't concerned about my pleasure, right? Like then that happens. And then, yeah, after the fact, I'm like, I'm not doing this.
I'm telling you, I am convinced everything that you are saying, I think is true. So I think there are many layers. I think society, programming, guilt that men carry, because we're just talking about how with energies women are receiving. I mean, even like literally because of our body parts. The pressures that we as men put on to now take care of because we just had sex. There's a lot of stuff happening, but I'm telling you, there is
don't say biological again, please.
Here's how I know. Here's how I know. No, wait, here's how I know.
Without having.
Here's how I know. It also happens when I masturbate. It happens when I'm by myself. It happens. So
what are you clear about?
Do girls go through that too?
No, I'm telling you.
I've always wanted to know.
In my ear.
Because I just had a revelation. You don't have to be with anyone.
What are you clear about if you're doing it
after you come? We're talking about cum clarity. After you finish, after a man finishes, whether he's with someone or not, because after I masturbate, right after I masturbate, there's this instant like,
oh my God,
almost like I was possessed, and then there's a snapback, almost like I was possessed, and then I was just awakened, and like I either feel guilt or I feel or whatever, like so if I'm watching porn or there's residue that happens instantly after you finish. I'm telling you, it's biological.
You're on your phone. You're looking at porn.
I think that's societal. I think you're experiencing shame.
I'm by myself.
No, I don't think
it doesn't matter.
Okay, so if I'm fantasizing, it still happens.
It doesn't matter. I don't think that's biology. I think you guys are struggling with layers of shame and what we've been taught is okay and not okay.
But you can't. That may be true, but you can't say that because I can't say what a woman goes through. I'm just telling you my experience.
I can say that because you're claiming biology on something that you don't have research to back up and say it's biology. It's not about whether or not this is your mental experience, but just saying you can't say it's biological. I don't know. We'd have to research that more.
And that is interesting because I forgot about the whole like whacking your noodle and getting the same kind of feeling.
That's proof. That's proof. That's what I'm saying.
It's proof that it's a shared experience. I'm not denying that it's a shared experience.
But do girls go through that?
I'm just curious to know what.
Do girls go through that?
I don't.
That's crazy. That's what I'm saying.
We always go through that.
I feel great.
Men do it.
But it definitely has to do in the shame category because if I'm looking at my phone doing it and then I finish, I'm like, oh my God, delete my history, blah blah blah, get out of here.
There's a shame component to it.
Hop out of the shower. And then
but also, I think that the shame component, it's not like I think women are shamed for our sexuality. I think there's a lot of shame for men around how much men use women as an object. Because I don't think spiritually as beings, you don't come into the world looking at a woman as an object to be jacked off to.
Great.
You develop that. You learn that. That is also how you're taught that women should be looked at and objectified. So there's shame in that because that's not who you are at your core.
Right.
It's what patriarchy has taught you is you're right about women, to use them as fucking objects.
So I agree with that. That's a big piece, but I still believe there's a.
If we were ever in an argument, I would just whittle away under the table. She would just eat me alive.
When we argue, we all
eat me alive.
Well, listen.
Are we arguing?
When we
but even the way you talk, I'm just like, oh my God.
Because she's very passionate. But
says the man yelling in my ear.
We're all coming into any kind of argument through a different lens and a different take. So the door that she's entering through is going to be because of who she is, what she's passionate about. The collective, society, patriarchy, spiritual, all of that.
Well, you can't say that there's not. I get what you're saying about there being a biological element to it because. Of course there is. There has to be something to do with release of, whether it's oxytocin or whatever it is. Like, yes, that has to contribute to it. So I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that by strictly saying it's biological, I think you're minimizing
maybe not strictly.
a lot of what's actually.
Sure. No, I think you're more accurate.
Sure. We now have a live audience. Hey, Brendan, after you finish, whether
I'm going to get
by yourself or with another person, does something happen in your brain where you 100%, I'm telling you,
Vanessa's gonna beat your ass. Beat his ass. Beat his ass.
Men, I'm telling you, I just since I was 12, there is something about men that
You had
when
to
they
hide it.
finish, something happens to them. Yes, but there are other layers. Sure. Okay. Speaking of finishing, let's take a cold bath. We're gonna end with ice.
Do you ever win an argument against her? No way.
It's I don't you know what, we disagree on a lot of things, but we look at her, she's not I think for us it's not about winning or losing. So there's
shut up.
no, seriously, I don't
I don't
think
want to. That's like the social
What?
biological thing.
Yeah, I think
Have you guys ever gone toe to toe and he's won?
well, we don't see it as winning or losing.
No, I don't want to talk about like I don't want the therapist layman's terms.
We both
Has
have
he ever beat you in an
we
argument?
both have one, of course. We
Okay,
see the
wait-
world
wait for
we
her to
see the
understand.
world very differently. Look,
No, she said no.
I'm all street.
She
I'm-
dominates you.
She doesn't dominate me.
Dominates
She
you.
doesn't dominate me.
She does.
Hey man, this episode's going off the rails. We are live on Instagram. We are okay.
Dude, you got
I'm not gonna unedit any of it. I'm not gonna edit. I didn't get crushed. Based on what?
Your the whole confidence in your face.
Okay, so this is toxic masculinity.
Your eyes
This is locker room shit happening. Well, this is
Oh my
bullying.
God.
You guys are bullying now.
God.
Hey, this is toxic masculinity happening in real time.
That's why you're out in the garage.
So
during
why-
this.
why-
She doesn't let you go in the house.
why did we go from talking about Cum Clarity to you now positioning me and Vanessa and then saying, "Oh, she dominates you"? She crushes you?
Because when she was telling me all that stuff, it gave me the same feeling I get after that whole post on Clarity. I mean, just that feeling of like, oh my God, she's so right. Like everything that she said made me want to like crawl out of my skin and under the table.
we could both be right in that her approach is always going to be collective, societal, other influences.
Intellectual.
I don't know. I'm always going to be street. So
Gonna be what?
street, bring it to street level, not like practical, like
Glendale.
Glendale.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for
Okay.
listening. Hey, thanks for being on my podcast.
Should we kiss?
Do you want to kiss?
No.
Should we kiss?
You missed a little hair on your lip.
I can't grow facial hair. Oh God.
We done?
Yes.